Good morning, and thank you for being with us with Cal Allen ISD, the Mental Health and Wellness series. We are going to talk about the harms of vaping and the consequences. We have Dr. Blanco here with us today. He is from the UT School of Rehabilitation and Counseling, and he's the degree coordinator of addiction studies. And I'm going to turn it over to him, and he has the floor now. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Good morning, y'all. Thank you for the invite. Thank you, Maggie. And I'm gonna go ahead and just add a little bit more to that. I'm, a full-time clinical professor in addiction studies, and we have a bachelor's degree in addiction studies. So all our students learn about substances and addictions so that they can become like me right here. So I am a master addiction counselor, but here in Texas, I'm also a licensed chemical dependency counselor. And what that is, that's the credential, that's the license for addiction counseling. So I've been working with people with different types of addiction, with substance use and chemical dependency, since 2005 or so. So this is already my 20th year as a counselor. And then I moved on. I became a full-time clinical professor. So now, again, I teach and I help students get this license. So we have a bachelor's degree at the UT Rio Grande Valley. It's an online bachelor's degree in addiction studies. So we have students from all over the states that take our courses so that they can satisfy the educational requirements for the license. All right, so I was asked to, have this presentation on vaping. It's not going to be everything. I know I'm going to keep it less than an hour, but I brought, I think, what I could on current things about vaping, and a lot of this material is already published by the Texas Health and Human Services Department, which is what I brought in here. But let me see if I can go through this. If you all have any questions, I guess you can always like stop or open up your mics and just ask a question or anything like that. I have trouble since I'm using a Mac and iMac, I can't always access the chat because something kind of glitches. So if there's any questions in the chat, it's
I
better to just say them out loud. Yes,
Yeah, I'll watch the chat and make sure and see if there's any
that
questions and let you know.
okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you, Maggie. So here's the objectives that I brought in for you all. We're gonna identify current trends in vape use across the state. Most of them to be across the country. We'll discuss harms and health risks associated with vape use, and we're going to review the latest prevention strategies in trying to reduce vape use. And if you all can remind me, what grades are we talking about here? Is this, I don't know if there's any elementary, is this mostly middle school or high school?
We usually have any parents from pre-K to 12th grade, so anything, but I mean,
Anything.
mostly focused on the middle school, high school level, usually.
And yeah, and that would be about right with this. I'm not saying that you won't see any vape from elementary. It's good to be informed, but of course you're going to see what I brought in, some of the data. It's going to be mostly middle school and high school. All right, so this is a quiz for everybody. I'm going to need people to like show up and talk about this. Answer at least if you can. What do y'all know about this? True or false? Some e-cigarettes are safe for use.
I'm gonna say false.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And I
so
would
that's
just
right.
say,
Yes.
oh no, I was gonna just say because, I guess in my mind, no cigarette smoking is ever safe.
None of this is safe, absolutely. But we keep the thinking on it. So the misconception that you're going to keep hearing, or you've already probably heard, is that vaping is safe. It's safer and safe. So I'm going to talk about that. And really, what does that mean? It's safe. It's not, especially for youth. So this is one thing that I stress, especially um, and working with clients with strong and long time chronic substance use and dependence. They always say the kind of the same things like, well, what doesn't really harm, and what bad is it if I use or I drink? And I said, well, okay. What research and the kind of the science shows us is that there are certain substances that if you're a healthy adult, it might not cause much harm to you. Every substance, every type of drug, alcohol is harmful, but there are some that you're a little bit more resilient to if you're a healthy adult. But because one thing everybody agrees is that if you're underage, if you're a teenager, nothing is safe for you. Okay, there's no safe amount of alcohol, no smoking, no marijuana, nothing, even certain medications. None of that is safe because teenagers, youth, they are still developing, the brain is still developing, so nothing really is safe for underage. When people grow up and they become, a healthy adult, that's a little bit different. Okay, but underage, everybody know none of this is healthy. All right, so we're going to talk about vaping. What is it? Because maybe a lot of us grew up around old school cigarettes and tobacco. And if y'all don't already know, vaping is using an electronic device to inhale, usually like an aerosol of the substance. And most devices, depends. Some are very expensive. Some can cost like 60, $70, some that were on that price. Some are a little bit cheaper. Some you can get a gas station for a lot less. And what's happened is, people have created these devices so that they can heat up, usually nicotine. It becomes vaporized, and you can inhale it. Instead of smoking a cigarette and getting the nicotine from the cigarette, you use this device to heat up the nicotine, a liquid nicotine cartridge, and you inhale that. So, you're going to hear all these words thrown out: vapes, vape pens, dab pens, anything else. Thing is, it's not just nicotine that can be aerosoled into a vape. It's also THC, which is cannabis, which is marijuana. So that's going to keep coming through a lot, okay? Because we are getting more and more, really, really more, not even disguised use. It's really a lot of open use of THC used in a regular, vape mechanism. So in other words, what could that be? That could be somebody using a vape. It could be nicotine, which is in cigarettes, or it can be THC. It can be marijuana. This is a little bit of history. Maybe some of y'all know or remember this on the right. That's what the first kind of the first vape was really an e-cigarette, an electronic cigarette. And these were kind of created so that people could, as a way to stop smoking or reduce their smoking, right? If y'all remember, you grew up in the 90s and stuff, people were smoking cigarettes, and there was a big message and big movement to cut back on smoking tobacco, smoking cigarettes, and a lot of people did. A lot of people were able to quit. We all knew what the health risks are for cigarettes. Everybody knows. Nowadays, everybody knows exactly what cigarettes can do. Cigarettes are very extremely harmful. Took people a while to really understand that. Now we all know. So I know that teenagers, young people, everybody knows that cigarettes are very harmful to you. So these e-cigarettes were created so that people could replace these with their old school cigarettes and kind of use it to quit smoking with everything else, with like nicotine replacement, those patches, different medications, the gum, nicotine replacement gum. Because nicotine, from cigarettes, it is very addictive. It is actually one of the most addictive substances in the world. That's why so many people had trouble quitting cigarettes. It's not something that they can just leave and just stop smoking. It really, um, some people need a physical replacement for it. So that's why that e-cigarette started. It was disposable. You could buy them, try to get your little nicotine, and eventually stop smoking, throw those away. Well, then it became much more, just out of popularity, it became much more out of convenience to just buy rechargeable mods and all these other tanks that are on the left side, where you're just going to vape instead of ever quitting, or you're just going to continue vaping. Okay, so that's the purpose here, just to let you all know that all the e-cigarettes started as a way for people to quit. Oh, and again, kind of the same thing, pictures from left to right, right? First gen, second. So I'm sure you all have seen them. In case you haven't, I mean, they're all out there, all these different types of vape devices. You're going to see more of the ones at the end. E-cigarettes, I think they still sell them, but people really don't buy them. All right. So what they do is they heat up whatever the liquid is. If it's regular nicotine, if it's THC, it's going to turn it into an aerosol. And aerosols are what people inhale. So it's not really being smoked. It's nothing like that. It's being inhaled as an aerosol. It goes into the lungs, gives people that high, that little effect. All right, I got another true false. E-cigarettes or vapes create a harmless water vapor. Let me know what y'all think. Is that a true or false? What is that
I'm
stuff that comes out? Yes, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna say it's false.
We have false from the chat.
It is false. It is false. So people say, "Oh, it's just like a vapor, a water vapor." Water vapor is what we get when steam comes out when you're cooking something and there's water vapor. That's water vapor. It's harmless. It's not. When you vape, I just said this. It takes the chemical, takes the liquid, and turns it into an aerosol. That doesn't mean that it's safe. That aerosol is how you absorb it into the body, how somebody who wants to absorb it takes it in. So nicotine, you cannot just take nicotine because nicotine is a poison and it's extremely harmful to you, extremely toxic. So kind of the way you can take it in is by turning it into an aerosol. So what's being blown out from these vapes is not a water vapor. It's not something that it's completely just safe, and it's an aerosol form. So here are all the other things that come with it. Right, you look at the picture. The very first thing that goes into the mouth or the lungs is the nicotine. That's what people want, but it comes with all these other things, a lot of metals um, that get turned into aerosols as well. Okay, I have a few more of these. All right, so make sure you all paid attention. That true or false? Most e-cigarettes contain nicotine. What do we think? Is that true or false?
True.
Good. All right. So far, yeah, you're right. It is the truth. They are created with nicotine. They are going to have nicotine. Even I'll get into the mods, the ones that have cannabis and THC. Nicotine, like I said, it's there's nothing safe about it. All right, so this is the pH scale. It can be a little bit more on the lower pH. It's a little acidic, or higher pH, it's alkaline. But even if it's in the middle of its neutral, it's still not safe. Um, I'll get into this now, and I know this is going to be a question. Was it safer than cigarettes? Um, it what vapes do is compared to cigarettes. So there's a little picture of cigarettes there. How many of us have grown up with people that have smoked cigarettes, and maybe some of us have smoked cigarettes before? Cigarettes, the way that you get the nicotine out, you have to burn the tobacco. And when you burn the tobacco and you puff in the cigarette, you're burning paper, you're burning the tobacco, and that smoke gets into your lungs. What a vape does is, the person avoids having that smoke go into your lungs. So it's not overall safer. It just has less of that smoke in your lungs. That's it. There's just less smoke in your lungs. Your lungs might be a little clearer, a little freer of that smoke, but there's also possible lung damage that comes with vape. I'm going to show you some of that in just a bit. But that smoke itself, that tar, that brown black smoke that so many people are used to from the old cigarettes, that doesn't get burned. That doesn't go into your lungs. That's the only difference. There's not much more about it being safer. True or false? Nicotine harms brain development. What do we think?
We have true
True
from the chat.
It is true. It is absolutely true, right? So when I say, all teenagers, because the way we develop our evolution, teenagers' brains, and even, young adults, but teenagers' brains are still developing and still kind of squishy, still kind of not formal. So any type of substance, a nicotine, alcohol, even if it's a small amount of alcohol, marijuana, THC, said, oh, it helps calm them down. Yeah, but it's really, really going to put a lot of unnecessary stress on the brain while it's still developing. So if you want your teenager, you want your child to have the brain that they could have as part of normal development, try to keep away all these substances as possible. Try not to have any of these substances in the brain, because it's going to impact development, which is going to lower, IQ, thinking, cognition, all that. So youth who use nicotine can harm the parts of the brain that control attention, learning, mood, and impulse control. And this fact has been shown with all other substances too. Again, youth who use e-cigarettes or vapes may be more likely to smoke regular cigarettes in the future. With alcohol, there's numerous studies that show that people who try drinking alcohol at a younger age are more likely to end up having some kind of an alcohol use disorder or alcohol problem when they get older. Any type of substance that they start, the younger that they try it, the younger they start using it, the more likely they're going to have some kind of a substance problem later on in their life. So that's true here with nicotine. Somebody starts, and again, nicotine, because of the way it works in the brain, it's very addictive. And once that gets introduced into the brain, the person's going to have that craving, have that feeling later on in their life, and they're going to want it. The younger somebody tries a cigarette or vape with nicotine, usually, I think what some of the data shows, like 15 or less than 16 years old. If they're less than 15, 16 years old, they're more likely to have this craving and grow up with this, I'm not going to say addiction, but this really strong craving to use as they get older in life. And usually the only way that they can stop is by, using the replacement, the nicotine replacement, like I mentioned. So like the prescription gum, the medication, which works, by the way. If you all know anybody who has trouble quitting smoking, all that stuff has been shown to work. If somebody starts smoking or trying vapes later on in life, As they get older, they're able to quit a little bit easier. Okay, I hope that makes sense. The younger somebody starts, the more difficult it's going to be for them to quit later on in life without nicotine replacement. So these are some statistics I brought from poison control, just showing that the number of cases of people who have reported some type of poisoning from vapes. We all take a look right before 2020, right before COVID. There's a big increase. I think 2020 they kind of didn't finish uh, collecting data. Everything shut down, everything stopped. So it looks like it's less in 2020. I don't think it is. I think they just didn't get to finish reporting because if you look at 2021, even 2022, I don't have anything from that's more recent, but even 2022, you see like the numbers just increase. So more people are using and more people are having poisoning. I think this is the last one of these. So, true or false? The tobacco industry can sell any type of flavor of e-cigarettes. Is that true or false?
I'll say
What do you
true.
think? True. Okay. This
I'll
is
I'll
false.
say
Yeah,
false.
this is false. Now you can say false, which is true. So what this means is, so the FDA regulates the tobacco products, and the manufacturers, the creators of the vapes, they cannot always just sell different flavors. What does this have to do with anything? So, um, just with alcohol, adolescents, youth are attracted to the flavors. Um, it's part again of our development. Part when you're younger, you like candy flavored things, sweetened flavored things. The flavor is a big part. Once you get older, flavor doesn't really matter as much. So, as people are young, they will drink. And I'm gonna throw it out there. What kind of like young alcoholic drinks do most teenagers prefer? I'm gonna tell you, it's not gonna be like bourbon, whiskey, or beer or things like that. If you think about people drinking underage, what kind of drinks they usually go for? They usually like
Fruity.
sweet, yeah, sweet, fruity drinks. They still make them. All the different like wine coolers, things like that. Supposed to be for older people, but once people get older, they don't really like sweet stuff, sweet tasting things like that. So a lot of underage drinkers like those really sweet, tasty, flavored, fruity flavored drinks. Well, the same thing with vapes. About 8 out of 10 middle high school students currently use a flavored products, and there's so many different flavors. What else? What have you all heard? There's like blueberries. Um, there's mango. You can put it in the chat, or you can just say it out loud. There's raspberry, blueberry, cotton candy. What else have you all found, or what else have you all heard?
So like bubblegum and peppermint and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can, and they're still going to be sold. Some states, I don't think Texas has any regulation, but I know that in Massachusetts passed a statewide ordinance where you cannot sell any flavored nicotine in Massachusetts. No flavored vapes. Why? Because the understanding is like, well, if they're flavored, they're more likely to be attractive to, you know, middle and high school students. Like in Massachusetts, there's no flavors in the vapes. You can still get them, but they cannot be sold, in stores. Here in Texas, I think you still can. Some different states have different restrictions on that because, again, I'm going to try to prevent underage kids from wanting this because so there are flavorless, just nicotine vapes out there. And I want to mention this because very curious. I had a client once who was using a vape. It was flavorless, but it was also nicotineless. It didn't have nicotine in it. He was just using the vape because he was doing it kind of just out of habit, out of his behavior. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, so it doesn't have anything in it?" He's like, "No, it doesn't." And they are sold out there. You can find them. There are just vapes that don't have any nicotine, don't have anything in them. But he just, wanted to continue going through the habit. And for him, that was important, just to have something, something to use. But he didn't get anything out of it. So, all right. So this top part is what I said already. Um, People assume that vapes are less harmful, but that doesn't make them safe. The CDC, all research shows that because it still has nicotine, it's very addictive. EVALI, I'm going to mention that, but everything in the vape, the chemical, the liquid, it's still very toxic to you. So what I had here, and we're going to look at some of these charts because I like to look at data and stats. And I had this presentation created, but then a couple of months ago, well, about 3 months ago or so, this is from SAMHSA. This is national data from the Health and Human Services. So every year they collect data, they put it together for us, and they make these really nice charts, and they show us like how, what the rates are with different drugs, different substances like alcohol, tobacco, vaping. I brought the vaping stuff in. It says 2023, but this was what came out last year, and then just a few months ago, because it always takes them a year to get all the data to put it together and come out, so it's always going to look like it's a year behind. But again, we're very grateful because this is important data that takes them a year to get ready, to get organized and put out there. So it says 2023, but it came out in 24. And I thought, well, you know what? The one for 25 just came, well, for 2024 just came out a few months ago. I said, let me put that in here too, so we can look at it and make comparisons. So I want you all to see this. Okay. So these are the big pie chart. This is the people who don't use any tobacco, don't vape. And that's a lot. Like, that's the majority of people, right? And the people who do either use cigarettes or vape nicotine, that's the little pie. That's 22%. Okay. Cigarettes still, it's the one that's being used the most. Nicotine, vaping, you see that towards the bottom, that's 26 million. That's getting up there. There's other types, right? People still use cigars, people use smokeless tobacco, which is, the chewing tobacco. So this was from 23. And if you look at 24 down here, what you're going to see is the cigarettes, everything went down. All the other types of tobacco went down, but the vaping went up. Do y'all see that there? It's the very, very bottom. So the nicotine vaping, see, it was 26 million. Now it's 27 million. So it went up by 1 million. And if you look at cigarettes, cigars, smokeless tobacco, all of that went down. So yeah, eventually people are just going to stop smoking cigarettes, and people are going to stop buying cigarettes, and pretty much it's all going to be vaping. People who want to use nicotine are pretty much going to buy vapes. Do y'all have any questions on that? Okay. All right, so let me explain this. So this is different ages. If you're looking at, well, what type of people use cigarettes and vapes? So these are different age groups. Don't look at the first one. It says 12 or older, but look at the one that says 12 to 17, 18 to 25, 26 and older. So either you or you have, you have kids between 12 to 17. Take a look at that. These are the ones who actually do smoke. I'm not saying that everybody at this age smokes, but the ones that do, 12 to 17, look at that. Almost 75% only use vapes. And then like 8% only uses tobacco. Okay, and I want you all to look at the one that says 26 or older. That's like 68% use tobacco. That's the old type of cigarette. And 15% use nicotine vape. So what does that mean? The only people that get cigarettes now or that still use cigarettes are the people that are already older, over 26. So middle schoolers, high schoolers, they're not really going to start with cigarettes. They're going to start with vapes. And pretty soon, nobody's going to start smoking cigarettes. All right, so I mentioned this is 2023, and then this is from 2024. Take a look again. What I want you all to see is, and usually I have like a little pointer thing here, but y'all see that in 2024, it says 50% in 18 to 25, and back in 2023, it's at 47%. So what's happening? Well, since the years went by, those who used to be under 18 that probably now became 18, and they're taking that with them. So they're increasing. So, now, and by the way, here in Texas, you have to be 21 to legally buy any type of tobacco, nicotine, vape, anything. Legally, you have to be 21 now. But they moved on. So they're getting older. They start when they're young, start trying to vape, and then they just move up. Okay, and I didn't want to bring a lot of statistics, but I want to show you all this. This is another chart that they have, and this is where they get what's called past year initiates. So in other words, what are the drugs that people are starting to use? Just starting, like people that have never used drugs before, what are they just starting? And this is from 2024. And if you all take a look at this, yes, all these other drugs, but if y'all look like heroin, that's at the bottom. Like, in other words, there are not going to be a lot of new heroin users. There are not going to be a lot of new methamphetamine users. Those are all at the top. In other words, the people who are already using those drugs have already been using them from the past, from the years before. But if you take a look, the nicotine vaping that's at the top, those are 5.4 million. Those are new people that have just started using vaping in the last year. Okay. Maybe we'll take a look like cigarettes, marijuana's up there. So what I'm saying is, and I see this again as a counselor, as a substance use counselor, as a researcher. Yes, it's all these other drugs are always important, but y'all take a look at the top. These have always been at the top. Cigarettes, tobacco, alcohol. That's always what people start using. And what's the most used, really? Does anyone have any questions about this? All right, I'm going to kind of finish up here with EVALI. So EVALI's, it's e-cigarette vaping product use associated lung injury. And maybe you all have heard about this. There are people who have gone to the hospital, who have gone to the emergency room, and some that have died because of lung damage, lung complications from vapes. People think that vapes are safe, that they're not harmful. So what happens? People start just using the vape continuously. Use it, use it, use it, use it, use it, use it. And people forget that that comes with harm because they think it's safer than cigarettes. They don't think that there's anything wrong with it. So, but yeah, if you use the vape excessively, all that material, remember what I showed you all, it's still dangerous material. It's going to end up in your lungs. So this is what was happening. People were just using vapes because they thought nothing's hurtful with a vape. It was leading to chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue. People again having serious lung damage, going to the hospitals and the emergency rooms. This is just a little thing about COVID. People, there's still COVID out there. Anybody who uses, what we found out right from when COVID is that it attacks the lungs. People who would smoke cigarettes were feeling the effects of COVID and having a lot more damage than people who were healthy without smoking. But it's the same with vaping. Vaping doesn't, keep you safe. This is a message from the director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse. All right, so this is, I don't know, again, I don't know if you all had this happen. All of this kind of ended in 2019. Either people stopped reporting cases or it wasn't reported as much, but had a massive amount of people who had these lung injuries. I don't know if you all had them in your district or around your area from vaping. People would go to the hospital. It's mostly males. If you're looking there in the middle, mostly males between at least 13 and up, young, median age about 24 years old. And the people who died, there were a few people who died. There were about 50 or so, about the age of 50. Last part there at the bottom, 83% reported some THC product use. All right, so I'm going to continue that because, wait, hold on. So if you look at the country, a lot of the cases were here in Texas. This is because Texas is very populated. We have a big population here in Texas. So we had a lot more cases. You see it's California, Texas, Illinois, not a lot in some of the other southern states, but we had a lot of people here in Texas. All right, and then here specifically in Texas, I'm going to show you all the different cases that we had of EV, ALI. Again, these are the people who would use the vape so much that they had some kind of lung emergency, lung damage. 73% were males. Not that it didn't happen to girls or females, but it was mostly males. 22% were under 18. Median age is 22. And again, look at the bottom. It says 90% reported some THC product use. So what's going on? Well, let me show you. Hold on. I think I have all the different counties here. All right. So you would look at your region. The Texas Health and Human Services has different regions. Cal, I still believe, I think you all are either under Region 11, like we are in the Rio Grande Valley, or you might be Region 8. I don't really see where it's at. I think you all are still Region 11. Because I know Corpus is Region 11. So Corpus, all that data, it's grouped in with everything here in the Valley and Laredo. So we're counted as Region 11. So there were 13 cases. They had the most up there in North Texas around the Dallas area and in Central Texas too. I'm going to skip this one because I really want to get back to. Well, no, let's talk about. I'll talk about the THC. Um, this is going to come up, but yeah, y'all. So most of the vape products now uh, are available for THC, and that's cannabis. That's marijuana. A lot of young people think marijuana is safe because marijuana is legalized in a lot of other most states now. Most states now have legalized marijuana. And because marijuana is legal, and because of our history, because the way we used to look at drugs, and this is kind of one of the areas of my research, is because we've looked at drugs as being like legal or illegal. Once the drug becomes legal, people think that it's safe and that it's okay because it's not legal, you're not breaking the law, it's good to use. Well, we got to change the way we think about that because marijuana is still unsafe, especially for young people, especially for high schoolers. It once they're adults, it's something totally different. But growing up, it's still unsafe for them. So um, it's really easy to get. People get them from other states. People can order them online, but you can get mods that are for THC. People can have these all the time. People can use them everywhere. People can walk around with them and use them, and it's marijuana. Okay. That complication with the nicotine is part of the reason why we had so many people with EVALI. And the last little part here is on prevention. What can we do? What can we do? Um, so I'm hoping that you all have access to some kind of prevention program, but prevention is really to talk to people, talk to middle schoolers, high schoolers, and not just educate them, but talk about how these substances really affect you. So that they can understand that, hey, there are better choices out there. I'm not saying that if you use a vape, it's going to kill you because we need to stop giving people that message. It's not going to kill you, but it's very unhealthy for you. It's all about learning better habits. Prevention is about learning better choices, learning better healthy habits, really. Oh, this is what I was talking about. So yeah, the THC, you're going to find most of it now. Vitamin E acetate, which is very dangerous. That is what comes out of the vape. Sometimes that's what was leading people into the hospital. So again, because a lot of the THC stuff, you can get that from anywhere. You can get it from online. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe. Right? So people think, and there's a lot of stuff about marijuana oil, marijuana concentrates. People still think, again, and here in Texas, in case y'all weren't keeping up with it, there was a lot of stuff about what's legal, what's not legal here in Texas. So a very, very small percentage of THC is still legal in Texas, which means that like certain cannabinoid products you can buy. I think you have to be over 21 to get them, but so there's a little bit like that. It's out there. It's not supposed to be above a certain percentage, like 2 or 3% THC, but some people can get more. What does it mean? People still are very confused about what's legal here in Texas, if THC is legal or not. And it a little bit is. That's the answer. A little bit is. But again, you talk to anybody who's young, they're gonna know. They're gonna feel like it's all legal, and if it's legal, it's okay to use. We skip this. It's different, and these are some of the sophisticated, some of the hidden different types of vapes out there. I don't think I have a picture. There's highlighters. They look like school highlighters. They look like, well, that one up there, it looks like a little USB or what used to be like correction tape. What else have y'all seen? The highlighters, they look like markers. They look like pens, of course. There's one that looks like lipstick. Have y'all seen anything else?
We've seen some that look like USB, like
Mm-hmm.
a storage USB.
Yeah, yeah. And they could be made, smaller, thinner, more discreet. Um, what about the highlighters? Have y'all seen the highlighters?
I've seen reference to them. I haven't seen them with
Okay.
like on a student or anything.
Yeah. So here's again cannabis CDC recommendations. Nobody should be using these e-cigarettes. No, certainly nobody underage. As an adult, you probably can. If you're pregnant, you shouldn't. Adults who do not currently use tobacco should not start using e-cigarettes or vapes. Again, remember the vapes and e-cigarettes were created for people to stop smoking. Okay, so if you don't smoke and people don't have any type of smoking problem, they should. This is just going to get them started a different way. These were meant to help people stop smoking and get nicotine replacement in a different way, but people are going to use that, and so you shouldn't. If you don't have uh, a problem with cigarettes, with smoking, don't start using a vape. And I'm at the end. That's all I have for you all. Do you all have any last questions or anything else you want to know?
I have a question. How would you,
Yes.
for parents, how would you suggest a parent go about talking with their child? Maybe if they suspect or find a vape pen or any substance,
Yeah.
how would you have them go about starting that conversation with their child?
It's hard because what you have to do when the parents, the mistakes that used to be made is that parents would tell them that it's dangerous, that it's going to get you killed, that it's going to get you arrested, it's going to get you in trouble. Skip all that, okay? Because those kind of like fear strategies, fear tactics don't work. If you're going to just try to scare them so that they won't do it, that you're going to, you use a vape and you're going to die and you're going to go to the hospital. That's not, it's always important to ask them, talk to them. I said, ask them and find out yourself too. You're going to have to know because you're going to have to ask them, do you know what this does? Do you know what it is? Do you know what it can do for you? Do you know what's going to happen if you keep doing it? And kind of just always tell them, but be honest, okay? If it's a vape, unless it's a substance like an opioid or fentanyl, which we hear a lot of, unless it's something like that that can actually cause an overdose and kill you. If it's a vape or even if it's marijuana, you have to be honest with them and talk to them and tell them, hey, it's not healthy for you. Your brain is still too young. You're still too young for this. It's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't be drinking alcohol, shouldn't be using these things because it's not good for you. You make your own choices when you grow up later, that stuff. And it's just real hard to be open and honest about it because so many people want to try to scare them, and that doesn't work. Don't try to scare them. That's not going to work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to turn this off now. I can see you all. Do you all have any other questions?
There's none in the chat, so
Okay.
this was very helpful information. And maybe if you send me the PowerPoint, I can post it. If not, I mean, that's fine. We'll have access to the recording,
Okay.
and they can see, parents can see the recording and listen to your presentation. It was awesome. It was very informative for parents to understand the statistics behind vaping and the dangers behind it. And I really like that you said that scare tactics didn't really, or is not the way to go, because sometimes that's the way we choose to do it. We try to scare it out of them, out of our child, and that may not be the right way to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It hasn't worked in the past, so it's not going to work.
Yeah, I
Thank
appreciate
you all.
it.
No, no, no. Thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you. And I think you have my email, so if you do need anything, you can go ahead and reach me by email.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sure, sure. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.